Forms of communication. There are two forms of uh, communication, the verbal and non-verbal. The first one, verbal communications, are those transmitted through hearing or sight. These modes of transmission categorizes verbal communication into two classes, the oral and written communication. Oral communication mostly involves hearing the words of the sender, although sometimes opportunities are provided for seeing the sender's body movements, facial expression, gestures, and eye contact. An alternative to oral communication is the written communication, where the sender seeks to communicate through the written word. Written communication is sometimes preferred over oral communication because of time and cost constraints. When a sender, for instance, cannot meet personally the receiver due to some reasons, a written letter or memo is prepared and sent to the receiver. The written communication, however, has limitations, and to remedy these limitations, some means are devised. So, for example, perfume advertisers lace their written message with the smell of their products. In the same light, we have Christmas cards with an attempt to enhance the effects of the written note with popular music. The other form of communication, the nonverbal, is a means of conveying message through body language as well as the use of time, space, touch, clothing, appearance, and aesthetic elements. Body language consists of gestures, bodily movements, posture, facial expression, and mannerisms of all kinds. Nonverbal expressions convey messages of meaning, and it is to the advantage of the communicator to understand what messages are relayed. Now, let's take a look at barriers to communication. Various factors may impede the efficient flow of communication. Any of these factors may at any point derail the process of communication. Even if the message is transmitted by the channel, the timing and the meaning of the message may be affected by these factors. The barriers to communication may be classified generally as personal barrier, physical, and semantic barriers. Personal barriers are hindrances to effective communication arising from a communicator's characteristics as a person, such as emotions, values, poor listening habits, sex, age, race, socioeconomic status, religion, education, etc. Emotions cloud communicators' ability to judge correctly the real meaning of the messages received. People with different values will find it hard to communicate with each other, and poor listening habits of a receiver frustrate the communication efforts of a sender. Physical barriers refer to interferences to effective communication occurring in the environment where the communication is undertaken. For example, a very loud sound produced by a vehicle temporarily drowns out the voice of the guest delivering a speech. Such distraction does not allow full understanding of the meaning of the entire message and is an example of physical barrier. So another example is the distance between people, walls between two communicating parties, noisy sound system near a telephone, or sounds produced by animals or vehicles, especially for work from home setup or online classes. I know you have experienced this. And overloaded meeting session. So a session with over 100 or 100 participants attending to it uh, oftentimes prevent other participants from communicating properly with the speaker. Semantics is the study of meaning as expressed in symbols. So words, pictures, or actions are symbols that suggest certain meanings. When the wrong meaning has been chosen by the receiver, misunderstanding occurs. So such error constitutes a barrier to communication. A semantic barrier may be defined as an interference with the reception of a message that occurs when the message is misunderstood, even though it is received exactly as transmitted. So for example, the words wise and salvage will have different meanings to an English-speaking foreigner than to an ordinary Filipino. Overcoming barriers to communication. When communication barriers threaten effective performance, certain measures must be instituted to eliminate them. To eliminate problems due to noise, selective perception, and distraction, the following are recommended. Number one, use feedback to facilitate understanding and increase the potential for appropriate action. Repeat messages in order to provide assurance that they are properly received. Use multiple channels so that accuracy of the information may be enhanced. And use simplified language that is easily understandable and which eliminates the possibility of people getting mixed up with meanings. Communication may be classified as to the types of flow of the message, which includes downward communication, upward communication, or horizontal. So each type of message flow has its own purpose and techniques. Downward communication refers to message flows from higher levels of authority to lower levels. Among the purposes of downward communication are to give instructions, to provide information about policies and procedures, to give feedback about performance, and to indoctrinate or motivate. Among the techniques used in downward communications includes sending letters when directives are complex and precise actions are required. But when orders are simple but the result depends largely on employee morale, techniques that provide personal interchange like face-to-face meeting or telephone calls are appropriate. Modern technology has made it possible for people to hold meetings even if they are not in the same location. Manuals and handbooks are useful sources of information regarding company policy, procedures about the organization, or about the duties and privileges of individual worker. The advantage of manuals and handbooks are these materials are available whenever they are needed. There is a need for management to provide employees with all the necessary material and non-material support it can give. So the first requirement, however, is for management to know the specific needs of the employees. This is the primary reason for upward communication. Upward communication refers to messages from persons in lower level positions to persons in higher positions. The messages sent usually provide information on work progress, problems encountered, suggestions for improving output, and personal feelings about work and non-work activities. Among the techniques used in upward communications include formal grievance procedures. Grievances are part of a normally operating organization. To effectively deal with them, organizations provide a system for employees to air their grievances. Grievances represent an open upward communication channel whereby employees can offer suggestions to the management. Another technique is an employee attitude and opinion surveys. So finding out what the employees think about the company is very important. So if the organization's operation is large enough to justify employee attitude and opinion survey, then it must be done. If the assistance of an outside research firm is considered, a benefit cost analysis must be used as a deciding factor. Another technique is a suggestion systems. Suggestions from employees are important sources of cost saving and production enhancing ideas. Even if majority of the suggestions are not feasible, A simple means of acknowledging them contributes to employee morale. Another technique is an open door policy. So even on limited basis, an open door policy provides the management with an opportunity to act on difficulties before they become full-blown problems. Another technique for upward communication is the informal gripe sessions. Informal gripe sessions can be used positively if management knows how to handle them. When employees feel free to talk and they are assured of not being penalized for doing so, then management will be spared with lots of efforts determining the real causes of problems in the company. Another method or technique is task forces. When a specific problem or issue arises, a task force may be created and assigned to deal with the problem or issue. Since membership of task forces consists of management and non-management personnel, integration and teamwork are fostered, creativity is enhanced, and interpersonal skills are developed. And the last technique is exit interviews. When employees leave an organization for any reason, it is to advantage of management to know the real reason. If there are negative developments in the organization that the management is not aware of, exit interviews may provide some of the answers. Horizontal communication refers to messages sent to individuals or groups from another of the same organizational level or position. The purposes of horizontal communications are to coordinate activities between departments, to persuade others at the same level of the organization, and to pass on information about activities or feelings. Among the techniques appropriate for horizontal communications are memos, meetings, telephones, even dinners, picnics, and other social affairs. Management Information System. It was mentioned at the beginning of this lesson that communication may be used to serve the information function. This means that a way must be devised to allow the organization to absorb information for effective decision making. In this regard, companies of various sizes have organized systems to gather information that will be useful to the management. Management Information System, or MIS, is defined as an organized method of providing past, present, and projected information on internal operations and external intelligence for use in decision making. The MIS currently used by corporate firms consists of written and electronically based systems for sending reports, memos, bulletins, and the like. This system allows managers of different departments within the firm to communicate with each other. The MIS is established for various reasons. Whelan and Hunger enumerate them as the following: to provide a basis for the analysis of early warning signals that can originate both externally and internally, to automate routine clerical operations like payroll and inventory reports, to assist managers in making routine decisions like scheduling orders, assigning orders to machines, and reordering supplies, and to provide the information necessary for management to make strategic or non-program decisions. Communication is a vital function of the engineer manager. Organizations cannot function properly without effective communication. If the required outputs must be realized, communication must be managed. And skill in the art of communication is crucial to a leader's success. He can accomplish nothing unless he can communicate effectively. For week 4 discussion board, of the following personal barriers to effective communication, explain by giving an example how each personal characteristic becomes a barrier. Choose two of these personal barriers and explain by giving an example.